Welcome, this is Team Vision. We are going to see the demonstration of the prototype we built in the internal hackathon of our college. Firstly, we will see procurement, that will describe how tender is allotted to the vendor. Then we will see how the item moves through the supply chain. Let's see how our procurement portal works. Let's start with creating tender. Gail Manager creates the tender by selecting an option to create tender. Here he or she enters the technical requirements. This will require a confirmation from the Gail Manager as its mining state. Once the tender is created, bidders can see tenders by going to Get Deployed Tenders. Here tenders are identified by their contract address. There is a description and the status of whether tender is active. Bidders can bid on tender by selecting any active tender. The bidder has to enter his bidding amount, email ID and his bid in the description. Once he submits, again there will be mining request. Now Gail Manager can see which bids are made on any particular tender by option See Bids Made. The Gail Manager has to enter the tender address. This will show the bids made on that tender. He can finalize bid from listed bids by clicking anyone. From here journey of supply chain starts. Welcome, let's see how the item moves through the decentralized application we created. Let's start with the vendor. Once item is allotted to the vendor gets a notification by email from the Gail Manager. Then the vendor prepares that item for shipment. He creates a unique QR code. The vendor goes to the portal and selects the Ship Next option. Here in address field vendor has to select the intermediary he prefers from the list. Then he has to scan the QR code of the item. This is scanning. The browser will require a confirmation from you for mining this state to the Ethereum. Next item moves in the supply chain by various means of transportation. Once item has arrived at an intermediary. The intermediary has to update the state of the item by scanning QR code. This signifies that the item is in the warehouse of an intermediary. Once the item is ready to get shipped to the next stop, the intermediary ships item using Ship Next option the same as the vendor. There can be multiple intermediaries between vendor and Gail. Item travels through all of the intermediaries, and its state is maintained on the blockchain throughout the supply chain. Once the item has arrived at Gail, the manager has to update the state that the item has arrived by scanning the QR code. Once item reaches Gail, then only payment is done to the vendor based on the quotation. This is how the item moves through the supply chain. Let's see how we can track the item and how the state of the item is stored on the blockchain. Let's enter the item ID of the already delivered item. The current holder shows the wallet address of the person who owns the item now. In this case, it is the Gail Manager. Time or arrival is the time when the item arrived at this stage. Update state we saw a while ago, updates this time of arrival. The time of shipping is the time when the item is shipped from this stage, it is 0 in this case as the Gail Manager is the final stop. Ship Next functionality we had to enter the next stop address, that's recorded in the next expected stop, again it's null in this case. The vendor contains the vendor address. The quotation is a winning bid. A row of delivered signifies whether the item is delivered. We can also see the complete path under Get Record. Here each step signifies the state item has gone through. As you can see in this case there is vendor, one intermediary and Gail at last. This complete path is recorded on the blockchain only, hence it is immutable, transparent, decentralized, and distributed. Thank you.